So this video is going to show you how to approach a Section 3 business report, which you'll see in your upcoming examination next week. This is we're going to look at the practice response you will have done from last year's examination paper, which you can find on Portal. And that's the Hannah Ryan Horizon Renovations file. So if you open up that file, you can have a look and see what we're going to do and how we're going to approach this in the examination. So I'm assuming at this point that this is going to be one of the more difficult aspects for you guys because you have not had a question like this in the past. So the purpose of this recording is to go through each section of this particular question, how I would approach it, and what sort of things you want to include in your answer. So the first thing you need to look at, of course, is this area up here, which is essentially your marking criteria. This is what, when we mark this part of the paper, this is what we're looking for. So the first thing is demonstrate knowledge and understanding relevant to the question. That really means that do you actually understand the syllabus content, and are you able to put in the correct syllabus content that answers the question. The second part we're looking at is the apply the hypothetical business situation. Because this is a Section 3 paper, we give you a hypothetical business situation. In order to get in the top band of marks, or the top two band of marks rather, you need to include aspects of this stimulus. So you've got to refer to the stimulus. Otherwise, the maximum mark you could possibly get out of 20 would probably be about a 12. So that's really testing your ability to understand what the problem is with the business and integrate those issues into your response in order to recommend to Hannah, in this case, how to overcome these problems. The next two are fairly standard, and you'll see these in most business report questions. Communicate using relevant business terminology. That's your sophisticated language that we've been integrating in class. And present a sustained, logical and cohesive response. This is probably one of the more important aspects of the task. You need to be sustained, concise with your responses. It needs to have a logical flow. It needs to be easy to mark. So if we look at the stimulus that we've provided here, the first thing I would be doing when I read the paper or when I get the opportunity to pick up a highlighter or a pen is to go through this stimulus and find the actual problems here. So this is Hannah Ryan started her business, Horizon Renovations, in 2011. Her current position on the business life cycle is establishment. So that's the first thing I'm going to highlight there, is that she's in the establishment phase. She's been operating this thriving business for 3 years under a sole trader legal business structure. So she's a sole trader. Hannah now wishes to expand, so that refers to growth, but cannot decide whether to make adjustments to the particular legal structure of her business. That's important because that's what we're going to be looking at in the question. She's come to you for advice. As such, you are going to recommend her some advice. Hannah is also passionate about their business and wishes to maintain significant managerial input. So she wants to maintain control. That's very important because you need to address that in the question into the business, but also likes the idea of pursuing her passion to grow, again looking at that issue of expansion in her business. So you'll see I've gone through and highlighted the key terms that we're going to cover, the key things that probably need to be responded to in this question. And you can already get an idea of what the question would be without even reading the question so far. So it's got something to do with expanding her business. You might need to change the legal structure, but of course you need to understand that that may have a negative impact on the level of managerial input she has, but we're going to have some a bit of give and take here. So let's have a look at the question. It's a three-part question. Outline 3 internal influences in the business environment that may have an impact on this business. So that's the syllabus dot point there, is internal influences. Describe the particular features and challenges present at this stage of the business life cycle. So features and challenges is another syllabus dot point, and it's at this particular stage, of the business life cycle. So that stage, of course, is establishment. So you would need to describe each of the features and challenges, or the main features and challenges that would be present at this stage of the business life cycle. Then you need to propose an alternative legal structure for the business and explain the features and benefits of this approach to HANA. So it's a fairly straightforward question. It's out of the first topic, which is nature of business. It's looking at the internal influences, and of course we'll need to discuss each or three of those internal influences. You need to look at the features and challenges, and of course propose an alternative legal structure. Within this, it's important to understand what each of these keywords mean. So you've got outline, describe, which are pretty low order descriptive terms, propose, which is fairly straightforward, and then explain, which is draw relationships to or link cause and effect. If you do not do what these terms are asking you to do, it's going to be very difficult to access full marks for the paper. So the way we're going to structure this is fairly straightforward. I'll open up a new Word document. If I was writing this, the first thing I would be putting in is my executive summary. And within that, some of the key tips I want. First thing is going to give an overview of what is to come in the report. Be very clear within this. Doesn't need to be too long, doesn't need to be too detailed, but probably you can't be I suppose, lacking in detail as well. And then we want to take what we just have, these 3 dot points, and we want to turn each of these into headings or subsections. The first one is influences in the business, is it internal? Internal influences in the business environment. And I'm going to take each of the sub areas of these and turn them into little subheadings. So we can call this number 1, give this a little preamble. So tell me about what all the influences are, and then we can go 1.1 product, so on and so forth. Talk about product underneath this first one, in terms of and using the structure that I've taught you in class. So you go through and do 1.2, the next internal influence, so on and so forth, until you've answered that part of the question. The next part of the question, we take our heading again, particular features and challenges. Features and challenges at the establishment stage. And we answer that question under here. Because it's features and challenges, you might be able to use a table for this. However, you need to ensure that you're answering the question in enough detail. Next section, we're going to use the alternative legal structure and features and challenges. This is just an example heading. You can call it whatever you like. It doesn't really matter what you call it as long as it links to that part. And in here, this is probably the most important section of this paper. You need to propose a legal structure, and this is very important. You need to propose a legal structure that meets HANA's requirements. And the requirements are, at the moment, if I remember correctly, growth, but retaining significant managerial control. So that tells me automatically that some of those structures might be out. And that's up to you to have a look at. So because some of those structures will lead to HANA having to give up control of her business. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to recommend something that she doesn't want. So, and then of course you're going to add all the features and challenges underneath that. The final section, which is normally a conclusion, we're going to call that recommendations. Because this is a section 3, you are a consultant, you need to recommend to HANA, and you're going to give very clear recommendations in here. I think we went over this in term 1, so I'm probably not going to spend too much time on it. But the question, it's very important to understand here is that you need to give more than one recommendation. So I'd be giving anywhere between 2 and 4 recommendations, and we want you to be specific. So that's my response. That's the way I would attack this. Remember, you need to be very clear with your response. These are the sorts of headings you want. I hope this makes sense, and good luck in the exam.